Okay, we're going to talk about primarily three things tonight as we are setting the stage for strengthening our company, building the team, the talent that it takes to win. You know, if you're going to win a Super Bowl, you got to have fast guys, and big guys, and smart guys, and a little luck, and then you can win. But if you don't have all of the first, you won't win in all probability. We're going to look at SWOT analysis. We talked about it a little bit. We're going to do a SWOT analysis today. We're going to do a little problem solving, a couple of surveys about your problem solving style. We're going to talk about problem solving from the point of view. We're going to talk about competition. And I wrote a couple things on the board here that I'm already going to change. First of all, we're going to talk about SWOT first and competition second. So we're going to spend about a half hour talking about this topic, and I think that everybody probably has a little bit of an understanding of what a SWOT analysis is. We talked about it in class, and many of you have done them back at work, but I want to kind of put it in reference to our thought process. If we're going to build a team, how do we build a team, and where do we build a team based on our strategy? And SWOT has to do with that. There are three handouts that we're going to need. A blank sheet of paper, it's a big size sheet of paper that we are going to need. Why don't we take a second and grab those three and a blank sheet of paper. And I'm going to start a conversation a little bit about while we are doing that. Yes. I'm just going to take a look here. Any of them that are here you can borrow. I don't know which one's right, which one's it's a big one, and this one. If it doesn't right, come back. So SWOT is not spelled like the SWAT team in the St. George Police Department. You already know that, right? That's a different job. We're looking at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. One of which is somebody hid the clicker.
What was the W?
Strengths, weaknesses.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. I don't know what we're going to do here, but so we'll do this way. We're going to look at what it is, kind of how to do it, and talk about it, and then we're going to actually do one. SWOT analysis, the idea came out of Stanford University in the 60s and 70s as companies were trying to take a look at what they had going for them or what they didn't. And I'm going to be thinking about SWOT analysis in class today. And since Denver's not here, we'll put Papa John's on hold for now. And we're gonna do a SWOT analysis for Stewart Awning, S&S Steel, and Wild and Wallbeds. And we're going to break up into groups. Those of you that work for those companies would be best to be with those companies unless you're planning real quickly to defect, in which case you can join whoever you want to join. and if you're in recruiting mode, right? So those of you that don't work for one of those companies, you could be thinking about aligning with them. We're going to divide the room into those three. But first, we're going to do a kind of a test run of a SWOT analysis. And sorry, this is not working, so we'll have to go through that one. So the S is about the strengths that the company has. This is internal. What do we do that we do well? And you can look at one of the handouts, the biggest handout, on how to do a SWOT analysis. And if you kind of peek ahead in this, it's no peeking ahead, we're talking about the topic. You can look in there, and there will be some list of questions that you could ask as you're thinking about strengths. If you're on strengths, we're on page 5 of 38. There's a little bar that says strengths, and you can kind of look at that. We're not going to read those. You can read those on your own. We're just going to generally talk about it. What is it that our business has going for it that we think our competitors do not. So just because it's a strength for you, if your competitors have it, looks like we're gonna have to add Papa John's back on, aren't we? So if it's a strength, if everybody has the same strength, then it's a fairly level playing field, right? There's not competitive advantage there. We are looking for competitive advantage, and internally we go, we are really strong at point guard, and everybody else in the district is also strong at point guard. That doesn't give you a competitive advantage as a basketball team. That's not enough. That's a level playing field. You are strong where they're strong. It's okay to acknowledge that you're strong, but don't brag about it or think about it or get fooled about it. It's not going to win the market for you because everybody else is strong in that area if they are. That's not going to give you. What are the things that set you apart that are strengths that you naturally have? Maybe you've got a better location. And that's just the luck of the draw. Somebody bought a piece of property and leased it to you or sold it to you a long time ago that was just the right one, and I-15 went through and you were at an exit ramp. Whoa, how lucky is that? Well, it did happen to some people here. When the 1970s, when I-15 went through, there were some people that were positioned strategically, you might say. Whether they had a heads up on where the freeway was going through, I don't know. But it sure turned out lucky. In my lineage, it wasn't in my exact family that benefited me, but we owned a farm that our family owned a farm. My great-grandfather owned a farm that became O'Hare Airport. Now, that's a nice piece of land to accidentally own, right? Didn't benefit me, but it benefited a whole lot of people. And so, that strength of location might be something your business has. And it might not be as well. But we want to look at what the strengths are and think about the strengths. And we want to also admit our weaknesses. What are the things where are we vulnerable? Now, sometimes we know our weaknesses and we're not going to tell. We're not going to let the competitors know. I'm all in favor of that. Sun Tzu, the Art of War, says when you're strong, make them think you're weak, and when you're weak, make them think you're strong. That's the ancient Chinese way of doing battle. Made a lot of sense for an awful lot of centuries. For us, we're not going to broadcast this. This is not a marketing plan. This is not a marketing sheet that we're going to do. This is an internal assessment where we admit where we have vulnerabilities. And it's a smart thing to do. When the United States went up against, in Korea, the Korean conflict 70 years ago, China and Japan and Korea were all tangled up in a mess there. And we had a P-51 Mustang. It was a fabulous airplane. It was a fighter plane, and it was awesome. And everybody else had big jets made by the Russians. That's a weakness. That's a problem. That's all we got is P-51s. And there was one way that a P-51 could face a MiG in combat. And you better learn what that is if you're flying one. Because there's only one way that you can get an advantage. Everything else, you're at a loss. And so understanding the strengths and weaknesses of your aircraft. If you're a jet fighter pilot, P-51s weren't jets. That was a problem. If you're a fighter pilot minus the jet, and you're fighting fighter pilots with the jet, you better know what the strengths and weaknesses are. And they're there. They're always there. No matter how grim it might look for our business in the competitive environment that we're in, there are strengths that we have. And if we identify what they are, we can deploy those. We can play to them. And there are weaknesses that we have. All of us as individuals have them. Every company has them. If we know where they are, we can protect against them. We can strengthen them. We can build them up. We can hire. That's where we do talent development, right? That's where we go, hey, we're hanging out here, and I don't want to stay hanging out here. Then we look at what are the opportunities? What is on the horizon in terms of opportunities? What can we do where can we go? How can we survive this mess? For example, we talked in the end of class, I think, a couple classes ago, or may have been the last one, we were talking about strategies, and it wasn't the whole class, it was just a couple of you that went. And I was talking about Riverwoods Mill, which is a company here in town. They make cabinets. You all know who they are. If you go to Parade Homes, you'll see a few homes that have their work in it. And they're a good cabinet maker here in town, been around for a long time, and have survived some really ugly economies. We had an economy in 2008 in St. George. Right now we're pulling 600 building permits a month, plus or minus. Mostly plus, and that year we pulled 40 for all year. And if you were in the building business, you were taco. Nobody was buying houses.
My husband went to work for them that year. Chris Peterson, I think is his name.
Chris.
Yeah.
And
But it didn't last long at all because he had left somewhere else because of the same problem. So.
Wow. Well, they survived though. There were 23 cabinet shops in St. George in 2008. I don't know of it. Some of them reorganized later and came back, but Riverwoods Mill survived that. And how they survived is saying, where's the opportunity? What do we do as a company? Now, there's not just opportunity. You have to look at a lot of angles of that, and you'll probably know a lot more about this than I do. But the company looked at a couple of things, and coincident with that time frame, a hurricane had hit New Orleans. What did it do? The dikes broke, the levees broke. It flooded entire wards and precincts in New Orleans. And that meant how many cabinet shops went out of business in New Orleans? All of them. You can't run a rusty CNC underwater. Just can't do it. These shops were out of business. And so what did they need to do? We needed to board up New Orleans and then put doors and windows in, and cabinets eventually, and when the houses were being rebuilt, it was an opportunity for cabinet shops around the United States that were recognizing that opportunity. That was an opportunity. It wasn't an opportunity for everybody, and it wasn't really an opportunity for anybody that didn't want to get on their horse and go down to New Orleans. Because what do you do? How do you do that? That's a long way to ship stuff. We were shipping, believe it or not, we were shipping bottled water from St. George to New Orleans after Katrina, because places like Home Depot were out of water in Louisiana, right? And we've seen that a few times where we had a toilet paper problem too. I'm not sure if they rushed to solve the toilet paper problem that way. But we've had problems like that when we've redeployed, and the opportunity may not be a forever opportunity. We often talk about the window shutting on opportunity. It's always somebody else is going to get. If they get there first, we lose. So when there's opportunities there, a lot of times we have to identify those opportunities, and we have to be quick. And if we aren't having a SWOT analysis exercise with the management team and the human resources and the executives that are involved in, we may miss opportunities. They're sitting right there. COVID was a worldwide crisis, but it presented opportunities in very niche areas for very interesting periods of time. And those that were scanning and watching where opportunities were at were jumping on some of those. And there were always charlatans that really jump on it, and that's an ethics question, right? If I've got the only gas cans in town and everybody's out of gas, is it ethical for me to sell them for $400 an empty can? I don't know, supply and demand. I'm a capitalist. That's not ethical. We have scalping laws against that and gouging laws against that. So that when there's a crisis, that humans can't take advantage of other humans in a way of expending their lives. And that's the way that ought to be. But business is looking for the opportunities and jumping on those opportunities when they're there. And what are the threats? We see, reaction to threats are very interesting. The Boulevard Home Furnishing Store in St. George used to be on St. George Boulevard. That's why they call it the Boulevard, right? It was in the county building, if you don't remember those days. If you see where Washington County's at, those little palm trees across the sidewalk, that's where the Boulevard Home Furnishings used to be. And they were there when a company named R.C. Willey, you may have heard of them, you may have seen their advertisements. They are in Salt Lake and one of the dominant players in the Salt Lake market in the furniture business. R.C. Willey has warehouses and stores in Las Vegas. They have warehouses and stores in Salt Lake. They are owned by, anybody know? Warren Buffett. Heard of him? Berkshire Hathaway owns R.C. Willey. And they bought a piece of property at, let me get this right, at, Kitty Corner across the freeway in Green Springs from where Walmart's at. They bought a piece of property there with the intention of building this furniture store in St. George. If you're on the executive team of the Whitmers at Boulevard Home Furnishing, is that a threat? You got an old ratty store on St. George Boulevard. It's beautiful in its day, but this isn't its day. And you've got Warren Buffett buying land in your town. Does your team need to know about that? You know what they did? Real fast. They bought land across from Costco. Built a store. Built a much bigger store than they had. The store they're in right now. And with hopes, fingers crossed, that investment will block R.C. Willey from coming into this market. Guess what? It worked. It actually worked. And that wouldn't have if they hadn't have done their SWOT analysis and stayed current on what the threats were to their business. We all got threats to our business. And it's dynamic. It's a changing world. All it takes is one new player, and holy cow. I mean, what if you've been thinking for the last 5 years about building a car wash in St. George? You missed it. I'm not saying you can't ever, but you missed it. Right now, we don't have enough water for the ones we got, according to the city council. I don't know. County commissioners in on that as well. But if you are in an industry, you got to know the landscape. You got to know the climate. You got to know strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So what I want us to do, so we've got time, let me just back out of this for a second and go this way. And I want to look at a couple of examples. Let's break up in groups of 2 or 3 or 4, just around where you're sitting. And real quick, draw a quadrant on the back of a sheet of paper. If you want to use a big sheet of paper, you can. I got more. Do a SWOT analysis for McDonald's. And specifically, do it for Mark and Dave Parrish, who own the local stores. Now, we don't know the inner workings of McDonald's at all. But we do know they're here. And we do know the company. They are older than everybody in this room. Except maybe me. I'm not sure. Close. And they've been around a long time. We all know who they are. Do a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats for McDonald's with your group real quick. We're going to take 3 minutes to do this. We're not going to take tons of time. Just get it started.
I think we split it up. So things will do well quick.
How you doing, man?
I don't know. So I think where they're located at is good. I don't know if it's quick, honestly. That's just me going there every once in a while. So I think they're located where they're located at in the building, and that's one right now. Right next to another really good location because that's it's right off the freeway. Culver's just went in there. And root like a fast growing area in Washington City, I guess, I think. But anyway, so location is a plus. There's
I think probably the same. They're pretty much the same.
Yeah, their menu is pretty.
When you go to the bar, you know what you're gonna get.
Yeah. Strength menu, I guess. And consistency, I think. Consistency. Like it just depends on the person who's.
What was the name of that guy that talked to me?
I think they also have, we have like stuff to do, so like kids can kids. All the kids will get one of them.
I did when I was younger.
Yeah, like, I did when I was kids.
Yeah, let's go on to the next one. Weaknesses. Weaknesses. Staffing slash like the workforce, I guess is probably a better way of saying it, because it's kind of talking about their wages and not saying they have bad wages, but not saying they have good wages, but how their culture.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard. I guess
They're hard on it.
most,
Hard to
yeah,
judge.
most, unfortunately, most McDonald's that you go to, there's really no culture, right? You go in there and they're just robots. Just robots. So it's kind of unfortunate to see, but it's kind of just the culture overall.
Yeah.
Even though McDonald's is, okay, what's one other weakness?
Okay, 1 minute.
Opportunities.
Yeah, they do have.
What's an opportunity? Their location that they're building right now, they have a huge opportunity in whether or not they're going to be doing well there. That's kind of like
Freeway traffic. That's pretty much what drives it.
think of just one threat.
What else?
That Culver's that's right next to there.
The thing is, I don't know.
Fast food restaurants.
The same people that go to McDonald's are not gonna go to Culver.
Yeah.
Nobody's gonna go to McDonald's and say, we go here and here. Because I mean, you go to McDonald's, $35 for 4 or 5 kids, you're gonna be $80.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Same people, I mean, somebody that shows up.
All right,
at 15,
I know you're not done yet, but you've had a conversation or two. We're gonna stay in your group where you're at. Let's hear a thing or two. Somebody say, what's the obvious strength of McDonald's is they're the biggest one. What's another obvious strength that they have?
Always had a good location.
Brand, location.
Location's huge.
Cheap.
As a location, it's huge,
Yep.
one of their biggest things.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah, their locations, they always get the good ones, you
Low
know.
prices.
Yeah, it's a pretty cheap eat.
They're everywhere.
Say that?
They're everywhere.
Yeah, they're everywhere. They're blanket around. You just somewhere there's, you know, McDonald's near me. There's got to be one. Their shake machine will be broken, but they got one, right? Okay. What's the weakness of McDonald's?
That's what we said, consistency, but consistency of menu.
Okay.
Was one of their strengths, so you always know what you're gonna get.
The menu is consistent. Yeah, they're not always messing around, except for McRib. What's with the
So if
McRib?
you ever show up and say I want nuggets, pull
You
over
know-
there, we gotta cook them and kill the chickens first.
It needs to go away forever, but I mean,
just-
if other people like it,
You
fine.
just take McNuggets and put barbecue sauce in, you got a McRib. It's beautiful. So what's a threat to McDonald's?
A weakness.
Their weakness.
That's where we're on
Chick-fil-A
weakness.
service.
Oh, you're on weaknesses. Okay. So we got.
Chick-fil-A service style, like that kind of service. Our McDonald's in Hurricane shut down because they couldn't have enough workers and their service was crap.
They're understaffed.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, staff's a problem. And the workers you do have are high school. That's their model. That's their business model. And that's both a strength and a weakness, right? And you know, that's problematic
Yeah.
for sure. So we've stuck our toe in the water with McDonald's. We can talk more. This isn't a class on McDonald's. I want you to stay in your same group, and I want you to, if you haven't met VinFast yet, you will. VinFast has imported their first cars to the U.S. from Vietnam. It's the first electric hybrid that has any kind of potential, and they obviously can give Tesla a run or not. We don't know. But if you were on the team that's looking at a Vietnam car company, electric car company in the United States, and they're here, by the way, already. I've seen one in Vegas. I haven't seen any more, though. What stays in Vegas sometimes stays in Vegas. And this one might be one of them. I don't know if VinFast is going to make it here. Do a SWOT analysis for VinFast. VINFAST. You want to write that down because you do want to look it up sometime later and see if I'm lying to you or not.
So experience.
Go friendly.
Yeah, right now, electric is kind of the thing to get.
They have a big fast home charger.
Are they hybrid or fully electric?
Both.
Both?
Yeah.
Do they only produce hybrids or fully?
Car.
No, it goes Are you finding them? You're not finding them?
Well, I'm not finding anything like positive or negative.
Oh, okay.
I'm finding information.
Okay.
The charging base.
Charging can be a strength because it's not like an unfamiliar car for American consumers, right? Sometimes there's cars that are out
They're
there.
expensive.
Right. Look like they're not from here.
Um,
I think they made it look like.
$53,000
It looks like it's
sticker
from
price
here, but
that I
then
saw.
also current.
$53,000.
The headlights especially make it look like, oh, this is not
This
an
is
American car,
not,
but the
yeah.
body looks like an American car.
Just feel the need. Pretty good opportunity.
Okay, let's see.
Is $53,000?
I don't know. Cars of the year.
I mean, technically, in some aspects it is, but in most aspects, nowadays it probably is.
So,
Probably not, those keep up with the range yet. Don't have as many,
yeah, could be.
as many,
Red. Major car companies stuff like that.
don't have no, warehouses in the US.
And not enough locations, like,
You
you know, it's not like a, you know, like Kia, right? So, decently named brands,
Like,
so
say,
you see
brand.
them everywhere.
If somebody says, hey, you wanna get in fast, I'd be like, no.
Like almost like a,
Like, I'm pretty sure I'd seen one car that looked like that, but
like box.
that's the first time I've ever heard of it.
Kia Soul. They're like, they love people like a Kia Soul.
Yeah, that's.
What about Honda?
Yeah, they got those.
It's a,
You guys ordering one up there?
Electric cars.
Now we're looking at it.
You're gonna order one, yeah.
Not bad looking, honestly.
Tesla's already pioneered their way through.
All right, 2 minutes.
And then like GM and Ford now, GM and Ford like said that they're gonna go
They're
full electric
starting to.
in like, I think it's like
That's the
2024.
VF9 and they're not too bad. They do SUVs and cars too. Seem to be pretty sweet. They have a VF9, a VF6.
Is that a fully loaded option right there, or is that just the base model?
I'm pretty sure it's based on.
It's been a year on the back.
But I think their main opportunity is that they probably came in
Absolutely.
because Tesla already pioneered their way in as to have big electric.
said they're gonna go like fully electric or majority like that, like 2024 or something like that.
Yeah, they still got a long ways out.
1 minute.
24, so that's like a couple years. They're still in process.
Yeah, so they have they can still get in the market.
Yeah.
There's still a few competitors, basically.
And then the threat I just said, I mean that's pretty. Honestly, that's probably the easiest one, right? The threat that Tesla, every other car company.
All right, we're gonna wrap up the conversation now and just have a few observations on that. With McDonald's, it was easy for us to fill a box full of strengths. What do you put down for VinFast? Anybody have a strength?
Eco-friendly.
Cost is in Vietnam.
Okay, labor cost. Yeah, okay, that's potential. Hard to find a strength, isn't it? And we're ignorant on the brand. We're not insiders talking about our company. So they may be capitalized incredibly well. I think they are. And they're talking about spending $2.2 billion and putting a plant in North Carolina. If they do that, that changes our SWOT analysis, doesn't it? Because it makes it less of a Vietnamese car and more of an American car, following Toyota and BMW and a lot of brands that are building in the U.S. Mercedes, building in the U.S. And so that's a help. But they are kind of where Hyundai was at 20 years ago. So Hyundai came to the United States market with the same thing. What's in the strengths column? I got nothing. So they had to put something in the strengths box. What they put in the strengths box? You guys remember? The first and only 100,000-mile warranty. They're going, we believe in our car. You don't. We do. We'll back it. And GM's going, we're not going to do that to ours. You know? and they didn't. And guess what happened? Because they didn't, they gave away, they meaning Detroit. In that era, Taurus was the highest selling sedan in the world. More Ford Tauruses than any other car. Where are they today?
Gone.
Almost gone.
Grandma's house.
Grandma's house. Yeah, the tweakers are driving them. I think that's what's going on. You know, so Hyundai had to find something to put in the strength spot. VinFast is going to have to too. I don't know what they're going to put in there, but they got a problem to penetrate the U.S. market. It's been done. Hyundai did it. We gave it away. But right now, if they're going to come in to take the market, who are they going to go after? Are they going after Audi with their EV market and platform? Tesla has to be who they're going after. Would you want to do that? I mean, Elon yesterday had his dad give birth to his younger brother and made him an uncle because it was his sister. Go figure that one out. I don't want to compete there. It's like, that one, that's tough. You know, he's got it going on. Everybody's competing against Tesla. And Tesla's got a benchmark there. I wouldn't want to be this upstart company. I wouldn't want to invest in them. They might make it. But we can see from the SWOT analysis, they've got some work to do. And we didn't even exhaust a SWOT analysis for them. I don't want to, because now what I want to do is I want to do SWOT analysis for 4 companies that we got here in Britain. And I'd like, Eric, if you would switch places with Andrew, everybody else stay in your teams. And so Eric is with Stuart Awning, joining Alyssa and Brennan, making a SWOT analysis for Stuart Awning, the real thing. Now, you guys don't know Stuart, so you'll be able to ask questions of Eric, and you're going to come up with the real deal. This isn't so much for fun anymore, right? This is our business. This is what we're doing. I would like you 3 to look at S&S Steel. Wilding Wallbed's up there, and we're looking at Papa John's here. So take a few minutes now for real. I'm going to give you a little more time, and you don't have to always start in the strengths. You could start, the strengths and weaknesses are internal to the company. Opportunities and threats are external to the company. And so you can start wherever you want to start. Now, a couple of pacts that we have to say. What we say in here is confidential, it's sensitive, and it needs to stay that way.
Especially when you're the owner's daughter, right?
Well, Yeah, well,
Awkward.
you're conflicted, aren't you? You are
We're on the
conflicted.
same team.
You are totally conflicted. So you can play as safe as you want, or you can play as real as you want. There's plenty to learn on the safe side of things. There's really a lot to learn if we go on the risky side of things. But this is we're not going to do this. We're not going to take a day to do a SWOT analysis. We're going to start the process. So I want you guys to go back to your teams and work on this. And we're going to spend 10 minutes on it, and then we'll regroup. Go.
Well, I guess one of the strengths is they're definitely the biggest line company in town.
Okay. We'll just do that.
Boss definitely holds a good standard of quality, is consistent on that quality.
Strengths, weaknesses.
Weaknesses is, I almost feel like
Okay.
too big.
We can start soon. Yeah. Speed, because that's,
Threats are obviously
Oh,
definitely,
yeah,
there's been a lot of
talk
other
about-
commodity companies popping up.
we're gonna do, let's do, we're gonna do, because I'm trying to figure out whether we should do Papa John's company, like
Versus one store.
versus
Opportunity.
my 3 pizza franchises. Probably. Do you think it'd be better to do, cause those 3,
She's got it going.
Oh, okay.
Unless that's your personal notes.
Okay.
Whichever way you want to do it. What was your question?
do you think, which one do you think we should do? I mean, I have a feeling, but do you think we should do Papa John's as like all Papa John's or just
That's a
the
really
three-
good question,
three
because
store
there's a certain
franchise?
amount of all of Papa John's that really you can do strictly design.
Yeah,
But where you can make a difference is on your own.
yeah, that's what
So
I was.
I'd say maybe lean it towards the local ownership.
Okay. That's what that was my, that's what I was gonna do anyways, but I just wanted to double check.
Yep.
Another strength.
Okay, so
Definitely get the
speed.
best material.
The one that is I say here, it's like
The highest quality for sure.
from Washington and
Is it the one over there on Hill Road?
Weakness is people definitely get more high turnover rates, so definitely burn out more than
It's,
all the time.
it's off of 1,000 in Tabernacle, pretty much like 1,000, and 1,000 in Walmart. Yeah, it's really not, that's actually the first stop, is to have that as a good location.
Yeah, it's down in.
It's not a good location. At
And
least.
then threats, obviously, a running companies, a lot lower overhead.
You know what Rapids is? Another string. Let's see.
Another threat
Speed.
actually is, we've had a couple of balls running, those start real
Been there for a long time.
Yes.
That's probably my friend forever. People have always used it.
It's
We
been
get a lot of
in
it.
St. George. It's been in St. George.
I think one of our other biggest weaknesses is we don't have health insurance.
Like 35 years.
That definitely turns people away.
Longevity, right? It produces higher
An opportunity could be to get health insurance, perhaps they would. Or,
Okay, so what's our screen?
Yeah. I do, but then I do, but I don't. There might be one or two of those that might have my name specifically in there.
I'm looking at them, I'm like, yeah, I'll stop with that.
Well, I'm the one that responds to them too, because that's kind of my responsibility. So. Okay, so
definitely can't handle.
35 years longevity, speed. It's hard for me at least.
One of our other strengths is definitely known around
The next
town,
thing.
they've been doing it for like over 40
Yeah,
years.
pretty much everybody, I would say our customer service is probably like okay, because I feel like I could probably do better at it
And
myself.
another threat actually.
But I would say,
one of our family members because one of the other companies in town,
Or not
the
even,
owners of my
closest to,
brother.
in the middle, like almost
And his brother was on the
Would they order yours or would they order pizza?
So what they do is competition.
You can kind of do both.
you can do St. George. That's technically in our delivery zone, so I guess ours, most people do because before that store was built, before that store was built in Washington, I would say staffing, even through COVID, whenever everybody was down, I had outside of my so I had good staff. First, the thing is, first thing that people think of whenever, like, people are closed down, or it's like, there's nobody else backed up or something like that, you know, the first thought that most people in their head is, oh man, they're just walking. First thought in my head, especially here in St. George, most of us now, they're just short-handed. Fortunately, I had a staff that wasn't short-handed. I mean, I had to pull in extra hours because we just got busier. Business grew like 20-25%. So I kind of.
So you guys have like a bunch of sauces and dips and stuff on there because you guys don't have that cheese dip?
Yep.
The only reason why I love that, nobody else does. Right. I'll go 5 times just for that.
I made a pizza out of that too. Myself all the
Did you?
Okay.
One of the guys I know, he used to play with all the time. He's like 20 and they don't have one in Hurricane, so I have to order for Domino's, which Domino's is bad. But I'm like, this sucks, you know? I want that cheese stuff. So I'll yell to get the cheese stuff.
Okay, let's think weaknesses. I'll go straight into
Best thing you can do
weaknesses.
is work, get paid to do something.
Location of it. Because half of our, you gotta think of it, half of our,
That's awesome.
half of our
Do not complain about that.
orders are
Most people
being delivered.
Yeah, you're industrial part now.
No.
Where St. George ended, now you're in the middle of industrial part.
Wow, that's so crazy that I love it that you thought of that. Most people don't think that.
That was the last day I said, out there and went on the freeway and go right in there all the time. In fact, before they fixed it,
I mean, I'm sorry, this
I
guy
gotta go right in and go. So now it's all too swampy, then now you're way far out, way far out. And it takes
definitely
forever
do it at your age.
To get over there, it's hard for people to see it. For location for delivery places.
Yeah.
Be in a place. I mean, there's also, just like everywhere, there's multiple factors and going to places. One of the biggest factors that could go into a place for us is you have to find a place that is a good spot for transportation. A good place where I can go over here at 5 miles an hour, or here I can go 40 miles an hour, or I can go on the interstate at 80 miles an hour. The faster locations, the faster you can go, the wider your stronger you can grow. Delivery zone can be, which then obviously you do that. But then you're right off of St. George Boulevard. You gotta go 30 miles an hour on St. George Boulevard. You know, all night.
That's how the family is to do a search and you gotta probably keep up on that, trying to keep in the top rows type thing.
Definitely just knowledge and
Do
skill.
that.
Been doing it for 4 years.
Search problem, that's the first one that pops up. You guys,
Yeah,
you have to do that, like if you pull the
And
pop
then I guess
down,
as far as
right, order, and see what's your address, you're automatically stuck.
We are
Well,
last
that's what
one.
we do outdoor
Yep.
shops.
So when you put in your address online, it automatically tells you, okay. Depending, you say you live in Hurricane, depending where in Hurricane, Washington location can deliver to you. Are you like, I don't. Are you on the, right behind it, or?
Spice on it.
I guess no.
Yeah,
we
yep.
just-
They deliver to you from that. Yep. You can have it delivered to you. No joke. Do it. Now they might. It's a joke, Dennis, so don't be turned off what I'm gonna say. They hate it whenever they get deliveries over there, because it's like, oh, far.
I've heard of like,
Do it.
Where's the one in Washington?
It's south of exit 13, you know where I was saying that Culver's is? and that-
Oh, it's right.
So, you know where the Chevron is?
Yeah.
You know what's that?
That's not very far.
It's about 10 minutes, about 10, 11 minutes.
Like 900.
But that is, that distance,
It's not too far from that.
Yeah, so now you compare that. Anyways, so location for location is strengthening. So for the St. George location,
Sure. Might as well put that up in Cedar City. It's a weakness where they're located because very far south of part of Cedar City. So it's very difficult for them to.
Yeah, the first day.
Yeah, they have those areas.
They're a little further south.
Taco Bell, kind of like.
and it's also kind of like this, you don't even know that there's a car on the highway because it's blocked by the trees. Washington. They get a lot of slices. They have a slice program because like their lunch, my lunch is not as busy. Their lunch is not very busy, but pretty busy. By rush, like right now.
I know exactly where they live now, they just moved there last week. Somewhere by Six Flags. Yeah, they've been out there.
Honestly, this is, I guess, from a person looking at it right now, weakness is our prices.
Yeah.
Prices.
Sister lives back in Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Not by a lot, like by 5-10 cents.
Let's talk about
You're not wrong, but it's still like
Dallas is actually the one.
I don't know. I might honestly buy course. I mean, I have a voice because I have 3 kids, small little tiny voice, but that voice doesn't mean that. I can put my voice out there. Somebody else. I mean, I don't know. No, I don't think it makes sense. So then I'll just so I guess prices and delivery charge.
If I go to Donald, let's say I'm in Salt Lake, if I go to Donald.
3 more minutes.
Order the pizza, and it comes to be 56, 85. When I go to Papa John's, order pizza, maybe it's a different pizza, it's going to be 62, 80. Who cares? Not only that quality is good.
Oh yeah.
I won't even know.
I don't really understand.
So I'm gonna go to the Rex.
It definitely was,
So
yeah.
I know Donald's one. I had a few Donald's. My assistant manager, he was the assistant manager at Donald's for like 5 years, and they actually and they got 5.
Yeah. I've been neighboring once and
They're a definite threat.
everyone's going here like
Another threat is we're trying to
like the McDonald's at one time though, right? There was like 4
right now. The threat is rising.
I mean, it was pretty cool. It was a good experience though.
Especially for coffee.
Yeah, definitely.
In the sense of especially for trying to find a location.
It's kind of weird. Like, there's not here.
You got to go to Adelaide.
Subway and things like that.
And like one location that we were looking at was
Yeah, I love it out there.
They get part of that.
I'm just an
so it's a cool, technically that's actually
It's nice.
Have an understanding.
But I mean,
It's just.
no,
I don't even know why.
this is just cool. There's like one
It's just crazy. I don't even know how. Maybe I'm just more concerned. I don't even know how the food places and the people that are
actually stuck.
and the people that are walking the ones that you are
Spending that money. I was built that before I
Usually we get like,
They were making 60 years ago. So they were probably sitting pretty good.
Oh yeah.
And probably selling their property for.
then all of a sudden it'll just be one big one. St. George does.
Opportunities. I mean, I feel like it's the
Expansion.
Yeah.
Always been a lot.
Yeah, like sometimes it's like
expansion of the cities.
it'll be like ridiculous.
Another opportunity is wise and use. Have you ever looked more memorable
Another month to go.
us, whenever Rush got big, our business group by 25%.
The other guy works where they are.
So that's a huge opportunity. It's
They're just actually.
Keeps me tan on
Yeah,
this
yeah.
farmer's stand
like
anyway.
the brightest thing on DoorDash.
Okay, I'm gonna call it right now, but obviously, you're not done. You have made a pretty good cut through, most of you got through, into 4 quadrants, I don't think you finished any of them. Here's what we're going to do. You are going to remain as these teams, through next class and 1 week from today. And so team 1 is Wilding with Andrew, Larry, and Jake. Team 2 is Stuart Awnings with Brennan, Alyssa, Eric, and Callie is sick tonight. She will join your team. Then team 3 is Papa John's with Denver and Luke. Brad is not here tonight, and Brad will join your team. And S&S is Joelle and Josie and Eli. And what I'd like you to do is, before you leave today, exchange emails with each other. I would like a finished SWOT analysis document from each team. So 1 document from the 3 of you, and make sure that you don't have a slacker on the team. We get a contribution for everybody, because often the person that's furthest out will have an observation that the rest of us are too close to.
So each of us in our group have to make a document one, or just one for our group?
1 for the group, but do it together as a group. Get contributions from each one in the group, and so make sure you have a way of communicating with each other in this next week. And so if you don't get that until next Tuesday, that's fine, because you'll turn something in by Thursday. Okay, and if you need a weekend after that, talk to me. I'd like something that has value to it, and not value to me, it's value to you. But there's some ground rules with this now. This is a sensitive SWOT analysis, and so we have to treat it as such. So the copy you turn into me will go to no one except back to someone here that's representing that business, and then you choose what to do with it. You can burn it if need be, just protect the innocent. Whatever. I hope that's not the case, but what I'm saying is that we're not going to expose anybody to something that is risky. If you've got an owner that knows they got a bad location but doesn't want you to know, and so maybe that's not what this is about. This is about business thinking, because if we know what our business, where we stand, now we know how to develop the personnel. We know how to develop the business. We know how to develop a product offering and product lines. So is that fairly clear what I want you to do? All right, so I want to talk about competition a little bit. I'm not going to ask for a report on what you accomplished so far. I heard enough to know that you guys were getting traction, and you're talking about the real issues, some of them superficial and some of them on nerves. Yeah, yes.
How much do you want detail? Do you want, you have an example of what this should look like in then, or how detailed you want it to be?
That's a really good question, and I prefer the vague as opposed to the
Okay.
specific. Use your
So
conscience
something
on
like
it.
we have here.
When you think it's a good job, you're done.
Okay.
All right, and I'll let you gauge on that, what your team thinks is a good job. Because what we're gonna do with this is up to each individual company. Some of you may take it back to the company and discuss it with the company and say, here's a starting thing. Bunch of idiots in school don't know anything about our business started this, but there's a thread of truth here. And let's maybe have a further conversation with the executive team, the manager team, the leadership team. Say, here's something we started at school, and what do you think? If you want to. It's not that part is not an assignment. That is, you're here to better your career, to better your knowledge, to better the skill sets that you have, and this is a piece that you can take back to work, and in some cases use that to say, hey, here's reflective of what our thought process is. And if you do that with the SWOT analysis, and your company wants to hold me accountable, I'd be happy to be involved in a conversation with owners of your company, and you can prep me on what the lay of the land is. I'll help, is what I'm saying, for free. That's not that's something think that we're talking about things that really matter. And so if you want to have a further conversation back at work, and those of you that are on a team and you work somewhere else, I mean, you got your own company, and I'm sure you do a SWOT analysis for your business. You know, feel free to do that. You know, those of you that are have your own thing going on, be thinking about that, and feel free to turn something in on that if you want to also. Not in place of your team assignment, but in addition to. If you want to have some conversation. I want to talk about competition because that's a subject that came into play as you guys were looking at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I want you to take a minute as the team you've been working with, get your phones out, Google it, do whatever, take a piece of your paper that you've got that's still blank, and I want you to make a list. One list or another list. I don't care which list you make, but I want you as a team to come up with a list. I want to know how many restaurants or food places are there around the intersection of Green Springs Drive and Telegraph. And so for the boundaries on that, I want from Star Nursery down to Outback on River Road or Telegraph. And I want from I-15 to Pineview High School. So in that range, I want you to make a list of everywhere you can buy food to eat. A sandwich, soup, whatever. Specifically, I want somebody to also make a list of how many pizza joints do we have. Where can you buy a pizza at? In St. George or Washington. Keep those to those two cities. Where can you buy a pizza at? Or off Telegraph and River Road, how many hair salons are there? So make a list with your team of one of those three things. Use your phones, do some research, and I want a number, but I want a list with the names of them.
Telegraph and River Road? That Telegraph and River Road? Like them together?
Yeah.
That's River Road, like they're.
Yeah, the whole long way. No, the whole long road. All the way
To
down.
Red Cliffs down to River.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, all the way down.
Telegraph and the Green Springs.
Right, and then it starts River Road.
Okay, so I know, I'm gonna start now with that number.
Which one are you going
So we've got restaurants, food,
So
hair
I live right there,
salons,
and that's
off
literally where I
Telegraph
drive
Road.
to get to work, so I don't wanna say no. Yep. There's a Korean place. It's way hidden. Taste of Soul. Taste of Soul. Good, like,
Is there really?
You guys don't even need Google. You guys are rattling them off the
Yeah.
top of your head. This is
hey, that's where I drive. Every single
Drive
day.
around a lot.
Somebody's hungry.
It's Royal Tiger thing.
Restaurant over by
Creep Station.
The crap station, yeah, that's right. They're actually close. They're actually closing it down, so it doesn't really matter anyways.
Red Robin.
There's a cafeteria
On page
and
Red Robin.
pizza.
What's on the only thing on the other side, right across the street from that is gonna be so.
Are we counting just
So-
coffee drive-through?
McDonald's
Yeah.
is right there.
Yeah,
There's
Oh,
Let's do it together.
McDonald's,
Either way.
we're gonna start rattling off like
Is that one that-
McDonald's,
So we want to go to the street
Del Taco.
on Telegraph
there is,
Burger King.
to, Outback Steakhouse.
Right there. I mean, I think it's like, yeah, you just probably don't.
Yeah.
okay.
There's,
Is it Texas Roadhouse?
You know,
There's Burger King.
Is there
No, that's
anything
really not
like
down
that's,
by,
yeah, it's
Darwin.
Darwin, no? It's over the,
Yeah.
the Burger King.
That's in there?
Yeah.
Oh.
By heart.
okay, there we go.
I don't know.
Is there anything else?
What's good to Outback? Yeah, we got Starbucks. No, Starbucks.
Biology, Korea.
Restaurants and
Oh, yeah.
restaurants.
So you got Taco Bell,
It's like this.
which is further down. Then you have
Pizza Factory.
yep.
Hamburger,
I think so, yeah.
Freddy's.
subway there too.
If you go to the church at the right time, there will be funeral potatoes.
That's so
Cheese,
true. There's one
crumble
on the way.
Crumble cookie.
French bakery.
What is it called? Teriyaki
I'm at the
madness.
32 and write that down, but then he says specifically.
Theater town, somewhere to eat. Mad Pita, Jimmy John's. Pizza upstairs.
The place in.
Not anymore.
Oh, yeah.
They moved. What was it? Jimmy John's, is it?
Oh, okay.
There used to be little, these are.
It was like,
right.
mine's one, like, right all
It
down.
was not.
That's like a
Freddy's.
mile radius.
Steak burgers.
30 places.
That one is, yeah, that's down on 350.
I know, yeah.
You can find it.
Yeah, good stuff.
Wendy's.
Oh, yeah.
It's that still kind of down there. It's actually right across the street from the Clean Cookie. So.
There was a Zion,
Yeah.
there was a Zion cafe.
Buffalo Wild Wings.
There's a couple restaurants there, what's that, Bishop's.
Bishops, that's right. That's good.
Well, I was thinking the one over by like Orville.
Yeah, but hop right there too.
IHOP.
Wieners.
Or in the In-N-Out
Oh,
area.
yeah, that's what I said.
And then is there another Fritz across the
Then we
street?
have, do you get those foods?
Okay, now we can go down to the
There's
mall.
right by Starbucks.
I think that's okay. I want to say that's everywhere.
On that
There's
one.
probably one or two. Hash house.
So,
Hash house.
So what is
Say
it?
hash house.
Is that really?
Hash house. Arctic Circle.
Wendy's, is over by Cal Ranch.
Roberto's?
Yeah, is that not, that's not as far as possible.
Roberto's, Arby's, Benja's, oh yeah, Arby's, and what was it, Roberto's?
There's probably more than that. So all I did is I pulled up Star Nursery
Is there
on
food,
maps.
food inside of the mall? There's only like, oh, there's that one. That's a outside the mall. My cafe is closed, so there's like a pretzel or something like that, I don't know.
Oh, there's a cut crumble.
There's a Crumble right next to Subway back there.
Arctic Circle and Benja's.
Oh, yeah.
Costco.
And apparently there's some cheeseburgers.
Is that like barbershops?
Walmart.
I just read that one thing.
And then,
Go get
No,
out.
they're
Gas stations.
I think Outback's last thing. I mean, they're part of that wants to keep on going and all those other food places. Outback is big, and I just, I think Outback's
I know, it's so weird. I haven't.
Yeah, we don't have any routes.
This is here.
34, there might be one or two. Just
I used to love that.
So they got so far. I mean,
Yeah.
That's the shit.
there's actually gonna be more.
Forget it now.
They're gonna be
Yeah, now we just garbage
I would-
Yeah. Hey, the
That's
new
just
car
in
was
the-
in Harvard with us. You get it.
Best damn pizza. I will
It
call
really is.
4 hours early
Me
to
too.
order a pizza.
I've called it noon before. And then I went, there's outside, there's this wood fire pizza truck.
Oh,
At American.
And the whole thing.
Oh, but I said, like, yeah.
Yeah.
Teriyaki mango.
We got that.
Okay, so we've done,
Those jacket box.
There's a party that wants to put that, I was gonna say put that dollar over there.
Garrett gets
There's a
jacket.
dollar on it, but it's on the other side of Star Nursery.
Oh, yeah, it's down Roman Creek.
Sound definitely
I
likes the
have
east
never-
oil. You get a haircut.
oh, yeah.
Go get it from the
So
house.
what's the?
Okay, let's just,
Wait, where did you
right
say?
there. Hair salons now.
Across the street.
Yeah, John Hader.
Yeah, so what is the
Cause
one
I
across
that's
the
there by,
street?
that,
No, that's before.
I
Yeah.
I think I said.
You said
I
that?
wouldn't want you guys to do it.
That's 35 places. I mean, there are a lot of other places, in Vegas that
Even
have
with
trouble
that pizza,
or
is it-
squished in the map and stuff.
Supposed to be counted.
I think one thing that's just back here, we got supposed to
Are there any
go.
big pizza places? Stand on the map.
I go there all the time. How the hell did I
What do we got so far?
all the time.
Let's hear, I know that we're probably not exhaustive yet because somebody missed the Subway and Walmart, pretty sure.
There's two Subways. There's another Subway on the other side. I'm from a cookie, so two Subways.
There are. Okay, so how many did you come up, how many restaurants in that area? Let's hear some numbers.
Oh, like
42,
Oh, wow.
30.
30 some, 30 some,
38.
38? Yeah, so you guys know some places that we don't know about. That's cool. So what's the point of doing that? Why did I ask you to, because that's just like an intersection. It's the Walmart intersection. How many places are there to eat within 5 minutes of that?
Well, if I'm gonna be opening up a fast food restaurant, I need to know what the
You
competition
need
is.
to know. And
I
at
need
2
to
in the
know where it's
morning, the
at.
only place is In-N-Out Burger, right? That's it.
Right.
It's like they got all the business. It's like, and everybody else around them just gave up. They just closed down for the late night traffic. And why they did that, I don't know. Is it good or is it bad to have competition
It's good.
in your neighborhood? It's good to have competition. Why?
Choices.
Choices. It breeds competitive competition, but it drives quality up
Okay.
and
Prices
prices
down.
down.
Okay, that it does. So as a consumer, when there's competition in an area, that's usually good for me because of what you just said. If I'm going to locate a restaurant, if I want to go into business and I want to put a restaurant at somewhere near Green Springs and Telegraph, is that a good idea or a bad idea?
Good.
Probably.
Not a ton of traffic.
A bad idea because
Is that a bad idea?
it's convoluted already. It's already filled.
Just it's be aware kind of thing,
Right.
right?
If you have an edge though, and you have all that traffic coming through already.
But it's
Yeah.
like that car
Parking's
company coming
already
in from
paid.
overseas. You have to break into that market on that corner.
Yeah.
That's right, on that corner. And you're the one that nobody knows.
Right.
How would you like to open, where's that? Cup Pop Korean barbecue in a cup. What the hell is that?
Right.
It's actually
And I don't know how many people are gonna go there. I'm not saying it's a bad restaurant.
A
I'm
better,
saying-
a better
And
location
they're-
would be on the opposite side of the freeway where that
Yeah,
old,
the ones
where
bad,
that old
the
gas
ones
station
that-
used to be that they just tore down, that old truck
Because there's
stop.
nothing on that side.
There's nothing there, yeah,
Up here, there's nothing
right.
there. And there's a lot of people who live in Green Springs, so, you can make a
You
case
can charge
for
a
that.
higher price, a lot of big money out
You
there.
can- you can-
There we go.
And they don't wanna go through that stoplight.
Right.
So if I could stop before the light, maybe
Right.
that would, maybe that's a
Pay an
competitive
extra
edge
dollar
we're
for a
looking
burger, sure.
There's an interesting phenomenon here that we're talking about. It was 20, 30 years ago, we started noticing that America's finest restaurants were clumping together in suburban areas of the United States. And it was like, why? Why do you go to one little area and there's 5 restaurants there? It's like a restaurant area. You go where there's restaurants. We didn't used to be successful in America that way. Restaurants needed to be spaced out. And so they were easily to get to. But why is it that they work in a clump?
So let's talk about In-N-Out Burger and Del Taco, which is right next to it. In-N-Out Burger's got a giant line most of the time. If I'm in a hurry, Del Taco's right there.
So,
Boom,
so
In-N-Out.
you go to a location, and as families, you go to a location, figure out where you want to eat.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know before you go.
Nope.
You get to a general area. That's a different pattern, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've changed patterns. We don't necessarily, we can't make reservations at most restaurants in St. George. They won't accept them. They have a call ahead list, maybe at Texas Roadhouse, or and so there may be an advantage to locating right next to your competitor. There may be, especially if you think you have a competitive edge, maybe you could clump where there's other restaurants, other choices, but don't do it with your eyes shut. Is so part of the research that we're talking about is knowing what the count is, and I put something down called hot maps. Hot maps are generally marketing terms. They're things that you look at, and if we were to look at a hot map of Denver's store, this won't be a hot map. This will be Google map. But Denver, where's your store at? Let's find it here.
You have to keep
Don't
going.
let me pass
keep
it.
going.
Right off Boulevard exit.
Keep going.
Did I get to the boulevard? Yeah, there's Boulevard exit. Okay. So here is how come, right, is that it? You don't even have your name on there?
Oh, yeah, no.
Come on, dude, man.
What's the rating on
Everybody
that
else has got their
score?
name
Good
on it.
rating,
Come
man.
on.
What's the rating on that?
Not a good rating, don't look at it.
Yeah. So what we would do in a hot map, we would look at something, we would look at radius. We would look at this map and we would say, here's our business. Now, let's look at radius, and we'd scale the map differently, and we'd start looking at how many customers live within 1 block of our store, within 2 blocks of our store, within 3 blocks of our store. And we'd start looking at the demographics of the people that, as we're drawing rings. And what do you get here when you start doing that? I got a freeway. That is a wall on my business, right? So I can pull from the other side of the freeway, but not real easy.
Yeah.
And when I get on the other side of the freeway, all I got's River Road and then Four Master Ridge, another wall.
But it's also a good thing for a pizza place to be next to an interstate, because 50% of your business is not in the store. 50% of your business
Get
is
on the
out.
freeway.
So you need to find a place where you have good
Fast access.
transportation.
So this is an interesting thing that's happening to the pizza
Yeah.
businesses. We have successful pizza places in the United States now that are in industrial parks where nobody lives.
Mm-hmm.
Good, 100% delivery, 100%. And you know, or pickup if you want to fight it and go, or if you're on your way home, if you work in the industrial park, on your way home you pick something up and bail. But so it can work. But one of the things you look at, you know, look at that piece of land that's empty next to Walmart on Pioneer Road. There's a river, there's a freeway, there's a beautiful piece of property right next to Walmart. How much business does Walmart have? Lot of traffic to Walmart. Somebody will buy that piece of land and it's going to be a crapshoot whether anybody will go past
Only
Walmart.
one way
or not.
in, one way
It's a
out.
dead end,
Yep.
right? And so somebody may be tempted. Look at how many places have located. I got to go back to the little store that I don't know what it is now. It's right next to Home Depot in off Telegraph. We got Walmart, then Home Depot, and then a little strip center with a PetSmart on it.
Yeah.
That first store next to Home Depot.
Red Rock Spas.
It's
just-
spas now. Now spas have a chance, but what has that been before? Who
It's a
remembers?
barbecue place.
Barbecue, pizza, a whole
Yeah.
lot of places that was before, all failed. Why?
Parking,
You got the biggest parking lot in St. George.
but not right at the front door.
Not right at the front door, you don't. You've got people loading up drywall, at your front door.
Yep.
It's a little wedge spot, but other than that, it's also a little nestled back. But when people are going to Home Depot, they're not necessarily thinking about going to dinner.
They hit the hot dog cart.
They hit the hot dog cart, yeah.
Mhm.
And so food trucks is another thing we can map on this, right? And we could put at what's happening, because food trucks are bursting in America, and we're seeing patterns in St. George even, and we're not going to see those on. We're going to see those on Facebook and Instagram. We're not going to see them on where we're searching, but we'll find them on Facebook and Instagram, and we could map the hot maps too. But in a hot map, what I'm looking at is where are people living, where are people traveling, and who are our target market. Where your store is at, the only people that live there are college dorm kids.
Yeah.
Do they eat pizza?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, hallelujah. They eat pizza, but I got to get to them differently, right? And in fact, I probably have to deliver to them mostly, right? I don't know that for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a good thing and a bad thing, because talking about competition, right? We also got competition on campus with Pizza Hut. They have a Pizza Hut on campus, so it's it's a 50-50 thing there.
That's rough.
I mean,
Or a lawsuit.
yeah.
I don't know. It's
That's
worth a
rough,
shot, right?
Because now you're competing against individual slices.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and we can't do. I mean, our other store does individual slices, but we don't do individual slices because it just doesn't. I mean, truthfully, the college students don't really bring a lot of business. I mean, we did a thing over it where we don't really get a lot of business through college students, truthfully, because one weakness that we had on there is, everybody kind of knows here our prices are a little bit higher than everybody else's, so college students don't want high prices; they want Little
They go to
Caesars,
Little Caesars.
right?
So that gives you a marketing dilemma.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And you've got, you're constrained because you can't make all those calls yourself. You are a franchise, and you gotta play the rules by the way Papa John plays the rules.
Oh, yeah.
And there's been a little problem there, hasn't there? We were talking about leverage buyout. We were gonna have a little conversation in class. Papa John's is an example of a leverage buyout. They kinda threw out Papa. Is kind of what happened. And I'm not sure if he was a bad actor or not, but we'll talk about that. It's Populous John right now. We'll have to deal with that for a little while as that evolves. But when we look at locations, a lot of places were in awesome locations that all of a sudden aren't. How about an Albertsons grocery store that was in the Kmart parking lot on Bluff Street? Is that a good place for a grocery store today?
Nope.
Might have been at one time, right?
Yeah.
St. George population has changed. Where we live has changed. No grocery stores in Little Valley. Will that change? No grocery stores in Desert Canyon. No grocery stores in Desert Color. Will that change? Yes, but how will it change? St. George population 87,176, county population 172,127. A good-sized grocery store takes 20,000 people to support it. So the ring around your grocery store has to be 20,000 people. We got 3 rings already, Walmart, Walmart, and Walmart. So that takes a lot of bodies out of the grocery store market. And if you take 87,000 and start dividing that by 20, we got room for 4 grocery stores. Well, I just named 3, and we all know a bunch more brands, right? So if you're Herman's, it sucks. You're not big enough. You got to specialize. You got to do something to cater to a population a little bit different. Your meat department better be better than Walmart's. But your buying power is never going to be better than Walmart's. So you've got a problem in how you set up the competition on that. Meanwhile, Little Valley lives without a grocery store because 3 times Steve Sheffield has the lot across from Papa John's and where Costa Vida is going up and Balance of Nature across the street from that big empty lot. 3 times he had a contract for a grocery store to build there. Something blocked him out all 3 times. Dino Crossing came up for one, and 3 stores went over there, different sizes. But we've got problems in the distribution of how do we support a grocery store. So now we got Dixie Meats builds a little shop over there, trying to take some specialty meat market away. Will they be successful? Don't know. They have been on the other side of town. This is the second store. Store number 2 is always a dilemma. You almost need to have store 3 or store 4 because you have a level of infrastructure that goes into place. And that's difficult. So I don't know, it remains to be seen how he will be. But these are the kinds of conversations that we want to have. And one of the things that comes into play, if there are 40, give or take, restaurants at Green Springs and Telegraph, there's something that comes into play called top of mind. How do you get top of mind? Because how many restaurants are good restaurants that you like but you forgot? There's 42 to remember. And you go, oh man, and I bet one of them's off the beaten path there. It's not there. You don't ever go by it and you forget about it. You like it. You would go there more often if it was more top of mind. Cliffside Restaurant right across the street here is one. It's not in a traffic pattern for anybody. Unless you come up here, you forget that it exists. And so Cliffside doesn't pick up any business. Papa John's, you forget it exists. Nobody drives by that street. And when they do drive by that street, you're not a parent. Swig is comparing, with their line and they, oh, I need a cookie.
You know what I think about when I think about that part of town?
What?
The animal hospital that's right there.
Yep.
It is right there, yeah. Voc Rehab is right there. There's a few things that are right there. Yeah, and so this is a challenge for your business, right? As we think about marketing and the dilemmas of our business and what we want to do, how we don't get lost, and how we, a SWOT analysis is heavily linked to our assessment of the competition and what the competition is doing. The competition always becomes a player in our SWOT analysis. What are they doing well? What opportunities are they giving us? They say if you're training to be a prize fighter, MMA or wherever, you've got to read your opponent and you take what they give you, right? When they open up, you take it. And so in business, it's the same thing. And so if a competitor has a weakness that they aren't covering, they're giving you an opportunity. And so if you can pounce on that weakness, then maybe you can do a little bit different, a little bit better. But it might take some creative work. How many of you have been at a shop somewhere when, in the last 5 years, when Jimmy John's brought around little micro sandwiches and gave to everybody and said, here, we got a store down here, we deliver to your business. Do you know that? Maybe they haven't to you, but they've done it to lots. They've given away thousands of small sandwiches in industrial parks, in offices, and in businesses to get people thinking about lunch and calling Jimmy John's, because they'll bring it to you, right? And so would you. So would that work? Would you be able to market that way? You know, pick a couple businesses, pick a law office, and go in there and give them a sample of something and remind them that you're right here, but you're forgotten about because we're not in a traffic pattern where we get driven by. That's always a challenge to come up with that. So all of that leads into the topic we're going to do next right after break. We're going to talk about problem solving, and we're going to do a little problem solving exercise and set the stage for Tuesday's class, where we will dig into problem solving, because one of the things we want to do, recognize where our problems are at, do SWOT analysis, recognize where our business opportunities and problems are at. But in talent development, we want to develop talent in the area that's complementary to where our weaknesses and our problems are at, right? So problem solving, part of that is trying to hire people that are problem solvers. And how you go about doing that is interesting. This is not a strictly hiring class, but some companies have some interesting things they do in hiring. Microsoft has a funny one. They ask you during your interview process why a manhole cover is round. That's an interesting question, no matter who you are. Now, you guys at Caston may have a better idea than others do, but there's not really a right or wrong answer to that. There's a question of how do you think, and what is your answer going to be? Like, I didn't even know they were round. Then you're a dumbass. We don't want to hire you. And so there may be questions like that. SKF is a bearing company. They drew a yellow tape, one of those yellow and black construction tape that we have online where you forklift lanes and all that. They made a circle out of that yellow construction tape, and when they were interviewing people in their engineering, R&D, or production facilities worldwide, this is a Swedish company, they have you wait for your interview and they stand you in that circle. And that circle's in the middle of plant operation. It is in a forklift lane. Forklifts are supposed to stay out of it. But there's forklifts going around, and depending on the plant, that's where they stick you in that circle that stand for a while. And then when they interview you, they are interested in, if you don't come out of that standing in a circle with a few questions about the operation, about why are you doing this, why are you doing that, then your eyes aren't open and your brain's not switched on. And you're not a thinker, you're not the kind of person they're looking for. So they want you to be coming up with some stuff while you're standing in the circle, and they put you in that circle for a while, just to see how patient you are and what kind of questions you come up with after you come out of the circle. That's interesting. So in our talent development, there are lots of ways that we have, that we need to be screening and trying to identify people that have potential, right? Because we want talent. We need talent if we're going to fill these gaps and go where we want to go. So we'll be talking about problem solving from that point of view. Let's take a break. I'll see you back in 10 minutes, and we're going to do an exercise on problem solving.
Have your email for it. If you want to give me your email, I'll just email you guys. Actually, sure. Do you want to write it up? And then I can give you a
This one for our document, yeah.
Oh,
you're
B, so it's an A, N, D,
Yeah.
I, E, J, O, V, E, and then the number 80@gmail.com.
Okay. Okay, so this is right. Okay. See if you guys can get that.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So I know I'm tired. Oh, if Thea will buy Vegas, if you ask.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking, I'm sure if it's not if that guy's gonna show up to work tomorrow. I don't know, I still got a 50-50 shot at that.
Oh my goodness.
How's this for a headline?
Oh, that is so terrible.
Been up for a long time.
Huh.
Here.
All right, we are going to stay with the teams that you've been on. We have 4 teams, one with a labor disadvantage, 2 instead of 3. But I think that will be okay, based on who they are. I think they've got skills. I think they can do this. We are going to do a marshmallow challenge, and my hope is that maybe half of you in the room have done this at some point in time in the past, and we'd like to draw from that if you have. If you haven't, then we'll all see how rookie performance is on this. What we are going to do is we're going to take some things that I give you. We are going to take 20 sticks of spaghetti. So we can open a box of spaghetti and count 20. I'm not going to double count, so if your counter is off by 1 or 2, that's not gonna be the end of the world. And you need 1 yard of tape. I purposely did not bring a tape measure at this juncture because I've got half of you work with inches and meters and all day long and pretty much know what a yard is. The rest of you, a yard is that big tall beard. And then we get 1 yard of string. So you've got a yard of masking tape and a yard of string that you are allowed to have, and you're going to have 1 marshmallow. The objective is to see which team can make the tallest freestanding structure, and you're going to have 18 minutes to do it in. By freestanding, that means it can't be taped down to anything or taped to anything like hanging from the ceiling or anything like that. So freestanding is it has to stand all by itself, and you have those materials to do it. You can use a knife or scissors if you have them or can find them. I'm actually going to go over. Yes, sir.
Can we break the marshmallow into pieces?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You can break. No, you said marshmallow. No, you can't. You can break this. You can break the tape into. No, you can't break the marshmallow into pieces.
Oh, man.
That's an adhesive guy right there. He's gonna glue
I was thinking
stuff
same
together.
thing, little pieces. Let's
Can't
get
do it
inside.
because the marshmallow is going on top. All right, so the rules for the challenge, we've got you in teams already. You've got the tool sets. You're gonna have to challenge in building the tallest tower in 18 minutes. I will bring a tape measure for that. The entire marshmallow must be on top. That's one of the rules there. That was a good question, but the entire marshmallow must be on top. So the tallest freestanding structure measured from the tabletop surface to the top of the marshmallow. So I'm envisioning you building it on one of these desks. These desks are on wheels. Your teams are 3 people or 2. So move the desks around if you'd like so you can access from both sides. Change it up however you want, just so we can put it back and forward. And you can use as much of your 36 inches of tape and as much of your 36 inches of string as you choose. And at the end of 18 minutes, time will be up, and we'll see what team wins this challenge. So, get into your teams, come up here and get your supplies, find people that have the knives and scissors that can help cut the supplies out. Work together, get your supplies together, decide where you're going to work. You don't have to work where you were. If you're going to put a table up here or whatever you want to do, you can do that. And there's enough marshmallows, I think, that if you want to sneak one and eat one, you can do that. I think that just so that all the teams have one left to put on top. I don't care if there's any more left or not. I love marshmallows. So you kind of got to love marshmallows. I've never been asked that before. Why don't you ask me? Would you like to do it for yourself? So I'm all for it, based on that explanation. I'm all for it. If explain to me.
Cut off the end. Who's got fingernails? You got fingernails.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, yard string, yard tape, 1 marshmallow.
It's like 40 inches.
I didn't hear that.
I'll grab the marshmallow.
I think so. I'm going to recount it though, just in case. 14, 19.
I'm on the phone with that.
Marshmallow? Marshmallow. Got to be up top. That's a big marshmallow.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's a jumbo.
It tastes better that way.
I'm gonna put your keys right here.
Oh, yeah.
For those sticky side up.
Maybe if we take a couple of them.
All right, gentlemen, what are we doing?
20.
You're gonna draw it out?
Eiffel Tower.
Yeah, well, not quite that, so.
I'm thinking if we make like 4 legs,
I don't.
I guess.
How big is it gonna be?
I guess it's just me.
We can break these. So we can break two to make our box, get our full size.
So we want height, right? So we want height.
Right, so we break those two to get us a small base. And then we can use the other 16 for height. Because I assume we're gonna have to break more.
Right.
We're gonna want levels.
We want to try to keep as many long as possible.
Alright.
That's what we.
That's what this is, yeah.
So the legs come down at the box and the top. Or even a box and a box at the bottom. So I have to take sticky side over side. Either way you're using 4.
All right, everybody's pretty much back to their spot.
So we got 4.
You can start, I'll start the timer in a
Make a
second.
box out of just 2.
Oh, string. Got that string, yeah.
Probably no. I said the ceiling, that's not the ceiling.
Are we good? Break. Are you afraid?
Yeah, those pieces.
All right, the timer is started and it's up here on the screen. You can see it.
I
See
just
where
put
you're
my
at.
hands on it.
18 minutes.
Alright, okay. We want, first let's figure out how we should structure this.
Now let's make blocks, right?
Take that. Yeah, they would. They want it.
But if we do TP like,
TP, you're gonna go up.
maybe,
Well, we got this small, small.
We gotta expand out to go taller.
but the thing is, if we do it like that, if we do want to do it like that, you're gonna have to use
Alright, I'll take the other.
2 pieces of.
While we try to figure this out.
I would say that.
They're tough straight up and down, they're really tough. Sideways and not like that at all. So maybe we ought to do 2 of them when we do the sideways thing. Wonder if we ought to do the like.
I was thinking about that too.
Do the house type.
And then we can also
Yeah,
break them too.
that's as far as I got too.
Right, so we're working with the tower.
But for us to go high,
That's
we're
key.
gonna have
It's gotta be on top.
That's where.
We just go with the basic, here, 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 here. I feel like we shouldn't overthink it, right?
Oh, what is that?
Maybe not,
You got the
maybe
tape
not,
on my-
should we even have a front like that? That would be a lose, dude.
Oh, I just folded on top of itself.
You know what I mean? So we just start out like this. Oh wait, we can't, because it can't be second round, right? So if we do it that way, how?
No, I'm okay, yeah, I'm just taking this and then I'll tip it up.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Double our,
Make it on something like.
double the length.
Training at work is coming in.
No, take that too, man.
this string? Why are you taping that one?
We could actually use, if we run out of noodles, we could use that string as some of our holding it together stuff.
Yeah. That's true. You could even cut it with your if you got knives or something like that.
Yeah,
You
you
could
cut
cut
the
it.
string, tie these things together.
Yeah.
Does it feel?
Honestly, make it with three.
Careful.
Because if you only do it with two, it's the this way.
Kind of keep, you keep pulling
So I
it
think I
away
got
from
four of that one, but I think as long as we have at least.
If we use the same piece of tape to.
How much this tape?
Have you stick it through, like poke a hole in it.
Right up there, it's nice stuff, yeah, stick it through. Without breaking it, I don't know.
Scotch tape it to.
No, yeah, just tape it.
No, that will definitely leave on.
Like that?
We can do another piece of tape.
It's not working out very well though.
How's
Well,
that work?
Lengths are different.
So we'll go like this,
That's not that bad.
and then we'll tape that. We can always break off
We
the
don't have to do it
excess
three more times.
or will the excess effect.
We can get that.
Or do we wanna like fold it out?
I think you could.
And it'll in the hole. And then tape it some more. Instead of like that.
So you try it with this.
Can we use all those things? I don't know if we can.
Shot the lock.
I don't know if we can use other tools.
So that's.
We could do like two
Yes.
in
So definitely.
yeah, like 14.
Yeah, and you can wrap some more to on these edges so that there's more stick spaghetti. As long as you
Boo. Why'd you give me the tape? I want the tape right.
There's nothing too stab yet.
Over.
This is what I'm thinking, this is gonna stand like
Okay.
And technically, we could actually break this in half and not put these in, this is a full stick structure. We could break that in half,
I
right?
need support.
I don't think
And then
we're
take the piece out here,
Okay, just hold that, hold that.
and then if you wanna build another one, you're right there, like that.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know, I'm still trying to figure out how to hold that.
It might be because of the weight.
I do, just push it, and I have it on my glass, I realize that. I can really zoom it in, and zoom it out.
or 18 minutes.
Alright, I'm taking this away from you.
Yeah, so
How long
now
have you
we
been doing this?
need this corner.
Better hang on to that tape. The problem is small. Your piece is too small.
I know.
But we still need them for
Are you stabbing? Who's
the
stabbing?
submission.
I'm stabby wise because either haven't done anything. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding, you were the mastermind behind this.
Is this the new square?
No.
Or is this just broken away?
We just need to
Commandeer
do
it.
like you said,
You're cold and heating.
I just gotta start taping it
we need to make
Oh, that hair.
like this.
The hot dog. I got marshmallow.
Girl, you're working on a different project.
Hot dog project.
Pressure down. You're gonna get a bit funky now, once you get the other side.
Yeah.
I'm trying to put these here so that it will hold pressure down.
Did you ever do the touch-up class when my little brother did it?
Where was it? Was it over at the,
Do you remember Toby that used to work there?
I worked there when Toby was there.
So it was like a couple years before he left.
That was over by where Golden Corral is.
Yeah, I
Did
think
you have to
in
get
that
a
hotel.
and the guy goes, This is their unbreakable bond. Listen to that, hands and flips, and it goes over my little brother goes, broke it.
That's annoying, we need continuity over here.
I think the tape, I don't wanna say it's resistant to this, but it doesn't wanna.
Yeah, no,
It's pretty funny though to be like, this is unbreakable, and then break.
2 weeks later, the number of
I want an NPR or I'm not.
No.
Do we need 4 of those?
Still in contact with him? We moved back to Louisiana, didn't we?
Louisiana.
One of us wants it, the other one, I think you're better at taking it.
Guys, are al dente.
Oh,
No. And hang out with
Can I cue it?
Dang it. Oh, we're gonna have to rethink it.
now we can.
Right. Okay.
You too, Larry?
I cannot figure out how you're getting that thing to work.
It's the overlap.
Let's break it.
That's the key.
There you go.
We might have to put something.
Yeah, 'cause this, let's put it in, this is short, this,
Which one?
no, I mean, type it up, I'm just gonna, this right here, this leg is
Oh,
short.
it's not gonna, okay.
I think it can work good.
Use that.
Right, I feel like, I think it'll,
Put this in the cloud.
Weave.
Make that
Seriously,
four.
I don't.
It's easier to build them.
Have to teach you guys together, and then you try it.
one leg, the other three can support it.
Next time will you get a thicker pasta, please?
What happened?
This is really angel hair pasta. It's hard to work
Oh,
with.
it is not, it's spaghetti. Nice try there. I did put the box of thin spaghetti
Now
back.
we can do
You
that.
did?
Yeah, I did.
It doesn't feel like it.
I know.
I know, it's
Yeah.
really
We
thin.
might
Yeah.
need to frame this up here a little bit. Just
Cheap it out on building
I think,
materials.
yeah, the time that we have, I think,
Never gonna have a good problem.
He went to Clovis. He didn't even
It's
get
almost
We
American
had something
Beauty.
going down, and then it collapsed.
Then it went down?
Yeah. Got the store brand.
So I borrowed a knife and scissors and tape. Can't keep going. I said, give it to us.
I'm sure she does. I don't doubt it at all.
I don't know if that works. I think that should be-
That was Brig over in the other room.
We're starting a union over here against your cheap pasta. Okay, then what, we get this stick?
So scissors, a tape measure, and a knife is here by the computer if anybody needs to borrow at this late date.
What, this one?
That's what strings we put.
And
Wow. It is.
Oh, I broke it, Larry. Why did you let me do that?
This is a fail.
Probably have one more level with tape.
so we need the corners like that.
Okay, do we stab these two?
You laughing, you know it's true.
But it's not my fault.
Said the HR person.
I think what we have, what we have to do
We get
is
fired.
cut a tiny piece of this.
So it's straighter.
Yeah.
No, 'cause
It's
you
gonna
said
obviously
earlier,
shorten
everything
by
said is
tiny
here.
bit.
That's true, I did
You know
say
what I
that.
mean?
Yeah.
I didn't get-
Hopefully my
I didn't sign
administration-
anything, but
Exactly.
I mean,
She's texting somebody right now.
He's like,
I'm making this final check
no
right now.
more. This kid is gone.
Yeah.
I know you spent that much money.
Well, it's just, it's,
But
the
it was
point
like-
is.
Yeah, the cost
is
didn't
not
work out.
like it
It was like a table with all these
That
stacked
would-
Oh man,
blocks
I
on
was
it.
thinking if you can fire me,
Yeah,
I'd still be
like-
throwing up the class.
People, but you
I feel like it was already
were
paid
using
for.
it, and you had to pull all the strings to pick the stuff up.
Like, I
So
guess
it's
I've
only was somebody telling you what to do.
Okay, I did that in like
So,
Yeah.
take that down, I'll make another box.
Just enough to
Larry,
Where did it go?
you're the engineer.
So, the same thing we're doing
Oh, I
here.
think we can actually.
He's balanced
this piece,
one
they actually
piece.
say that. I think this piece.
Hey, I mean.
We got one up.
That's pretty dang fire for this one.
They got us beat over there.
Oh, dang.
Okay, hurry up.
Oh, we're leaving, we're going down.
It's a lane two.
Five
It's a
going on
lane
over
two.
here. Come on now.
Okay, I need to, you just send it out.
I need the
We're
other.
just making sure.
Why wasn't that moving?
Connect the corners.
Lean 'em all together.
Okay, we can do this.
Ooh, not more. Oh, you got that watch.
Did you keep all close? Why?
Oh, man.
Let's just use that table.
You double up on pasta, too big.
Alright, go for it.
I don't even see a hole.
Spitball over here.
You get the tiny baby knife. With
Did you
what looks
see
like
the
a
Bring a
broken.
bigger one next
And this
time.
corner right
Okay?
here, did you really though? Can you poke it bigger? Oh, that's, I got it now. Sorry.
God.
It's just all-
Which one you after?
I'm trying to get, there you go. Your problem now.
I think we can get this
So far,
solid.
there.
Oh, I cleaned up way too quick.
This is gonna be on.
Not more general.
Yeah.
We understand.
Don't break. Break
Leave it to the
the
person in the office, okay?
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds like
I didn't have anything to do with it. So, I'm kind of just waiting to see. So how do you want?
Obviously, I need to practice
Well, if we
using
use
the
it,
box.
here.
It's a skill set I haven't learned mastered yet.
Do we want some tape on?
I'm putting Lincoln logs.
So, do it. On all sides?
Was it that one that came out?
Is there enough room to do that?
Well, that one's in there, in there.
We're running
You
out of
have to do it
time.
on all sides.
We got minutes left. What we got? Oh, we hit it.
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Turn that thing off. Why'd you even mention it? What the heck? I was trying not to look at it.
Here?
You're getting cream.
Oh, crud.
Oh, man, I don't think these phones work.
Yeah, start looping.
Just look at one.
Actually gonna leave it asking.
I'm just gonna make
Ooh, that works.
Can you get it?
Oh, damn.
Thanks, good. Yep.
They're gonna win right there. Simple
Don't
design.
be looking over here.
We're not changing strategy now. We're
Yeah, it's too
Too
late.
late
It's
for
too
that.
late.
We got like a minute left. What are you talking about?
2 minutes.
Marshmallow.
Is this the marshmallows?
I think so. We do.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, I'm just looking to see how you guys are doing. Ours ain't doing so well.
It's trial and error, trial and error.
We need a marshmallow platform.
Now we gotta get this in straight.
I think we put it in the middle. I think so
And then
far.
put a lot of tape in the marshmallow.
Well, we're down to 1 minute. Do you wanna bargain for some more time?
Yes.
How much more time's
Like
appropriate?
$5 from each of you.
How much time is it? 5 minutes? You guys want 5 more minutes?
Yeah.
All right, 5 minutes.
It's like the song.
What is that?
I think we gotta use another piece of tape over
Isn't
there.
that
That's too simple.
But I'd be able to.
Hey, I'm not, it's working, I'm just saying, why didn't we think of this sooner?
And trust your gut.
We just start putting this together. Start popping holes up.
Well, I need to.
I don't want to take it open. I probably grab it over here.
It scared, we broke all our houses, it scared us.
Crap, yeah, we gotta focus on that.
If you need any more pasta, stick to itself. I think right now we're just keep it I mean, hey, as long as we keep the support, why not?
No, I think since it's on, we don't worry about it, we worry about things that are. You know what? I think we need to start using this piece of string.
That's what I'm thinking, let me take
That would think, maybe around like, yeah, stable. Let's do that.
Snap, crackle, and pop. I heard that.
How the mighty fall.
Support that halfway here, you just.
Go a little flat, right?
That's right.
Here, I got this little link right here.
They just pulled me.
He's got some trust.
You need a break.
That's what I'm thinking. There we go, that's some support right there.
This might win it right there.
Like,
I don't need five.
need some support right there for sure. Here,
There's-
yeah, just tape them.
What?
No.
Just keep taping it.
We're leaning. We got string though.
That's what I'm thinking.
So you're saying you wanna use the string as a counterbalance?
No, we can't do that. We would have to, I don't know.
Successful.
2 minutes, 30 seconds.
The last 5 seconds.
We're gonna put that tutu on top of it.
That's cut, once you take that.
We need to start
I know it's.
weaving some of that basket to put this on.
Strip.
Take that right in there and see what you got.
Rip apart like that much. Upside
We
down.
got 2 minutes, I think we just ride it out, we got
Oh my goodness.
You got the height.
We just gotta get the marshmallow.
Oh my God.
I think I'm gonna wait till the very last second, just plop it on there, at the clock.
Look at that.
That was about 7 minutes wasted, that was.
Go.
Oh, dude, just long now.
We just need, more support.
What if we eat marshmallow?
You can.
Minute and a half.
I think we gotta go a minute and a half.
Just
We're losing our.
Let's just keep going.
come apart.
Let's
Just keep shooting it up.
But this
just
one.
sit on there.
I can make me with this whole lot of,
Not that attitude.
I think. Not that we just go up on one.
Yeah, I think as long as you just keep.
I mean, it might lean like this.
Should be able to sustain a marshmallow.
It needs multiple pieces, doesn't it?
Yeah,
It's got tape.
It's gonna break, and we got 50 seconds.
Flex.
Okay, tape these bad boys together here.
Yeah.
We have something better than nothing.
Whatever.
30 seconds.
Good.
You got something to put it on. We got 30 seconds. See if
Same thing we did before.
Release the tension.
Okay. Take this bad boy back to zero.
Just tie it down to the neck so it sticks up.
Oh man, we almost had it.
Ow. It's a freestand. Okay.
Oh, yeah, it's done.
So we gotta hold it, but it's on there.
Has anybody got a freestanding tower?
Not anymore.
I
About
think the jumbo.
20 seconds ago. we did.
Yeah, why did you have to get the freaking jumbo?
She wants a miniature one.
You
You got it though.
Let it go, let it go.
Have it
Oh.
His doctor was.
Where's the tape measure? Let's measure that guy.
It's gonna spin off.
Yep.
Crash.
We win by default.
By holding it.
Well, where's your marshmallow at?
It's on the
It's on the bottom.
It's like so 3 inches. Anybody beat 3 inches?
Let go.
Brennan's got it going on over there. He's doing it on the floor.
Lean to.
Good.
Oh, dude.
He's got a spider web over there or something. So if
We could just tie it. It would hold.
it's these spaghetti sticks, you got 4 of them. So if it worked, that would have been a 21 inch tower.
Considering no one likes
22 it will be in
It'll definitely fall over.
And
Yeah, we're not,
yours is gonna spiral down. So what I learned is that's a crappy wall bed.
we don't put together with,
Whoa, whoa, it did it.
You know what, I went
It was gone.
different material.
So
The breeze from when you walking by.
You hand me some steel and welding wire.
check it out.
marshmallow on that piece.
Okay, it's freestanding at 13 inches.
We
That's
won.
the fault you
Oh,
did.
thank you.
We won.
Unless yours is
It's
gonna
literally
go.
standing.
That does work.
It counts.
But it worked.
13
Counts.
inches.
figured out what to do.
Holy cow.
Innovative.
13 inches, won it.
Just leave it here till
All right, so we're gonna talk about this a little bit. And when I
You
do,
don't have to say the same picture, right?
no,
There you go.
yeah, don't show that off.
Yeah.
This needs to be documented.
That steel does better than
I
that
know,
usually.
yeah. We're still doing that.
Nice.
So pass those around, have a marshmallow. If you care too, I don't want anybody to go down that.
No good. No, do marshmallow.
Gonna talk about it just a little bit. I'm gonna, show you a video clip of
But I wish we would have
some,
thought of that first.
some
to put
students
across
doing
and
this,
put it across.
Right.
some of the things, and you recognize some of the stuff. They try. Approaches look similar. We didn't in this group have as many cube approaches as we had here. You had a cube base. I do agree that there's a difference in pasta.
Oh, yeah.
And you shouldn't go with that organic stuff.
No gluten
We
free
need
next
that
time.
modified
Needs
stuff too.
stiffeners in it, you know.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, someone taped to the table.
So I think you get the picture there. Anyway, we've got a lot of different similar trials to yours, and we won't go through the debriefing right yet. I want to watch another video, and we'll come back and talk a little bit about why we did this and what maybe there's there to learn. And then we got one more thing we'll do, and we'll be done for the night, or for the Pioneer Weekend, actually. I guess it's coming up for some.
Several years ago here at TED, Peter Skillman introduced a design challenge called the Marshmallow Challenge. And the idea is pretty simple. Teams of 4 have to build the tallest freestanding structure out of 20 sticks of spaghetti, 1 yard of tape, 1 yard of string, and a marshmallow. The marshmallow has to be on top. And though it seems really simple, it's actually pretty hard because it forces people to collaborate very quickly. And so I thought this was an interesting idea, and I incorporated it into a design workshop, and it was a huge success. And since then, I've conducted about 70 design workshops across the world with students and designers and architects, even the CTOs of the Fortune 50. And there's something about this exercise that reveals very deep lessons about the nature of collaboration, and I'd like to share some of them with you. So, normally, most people begin by orienting themselves to the task. They talk about it, they figure out what it's going to look like, they jockey for power, then they spend some time planning, organizing, they sketch in, they lay out spaghetti. They spend the majority of their time assembling the sticks into ever-growing structures, and then finally, just as they're running out of time, someone takes out the marshmallow, and then they gingerly put it on top, and they stand back, and ta-da! They admire their work. But what really happens most of the time is that the ta-da turns into an uh-oh, because the weight of the marshmallow causes the entire structure to buckle and to collapse. So there are a number of people who have a lot more uh-oh moments than others. And among the worst are recent graduates of business school. They lie, they cheat, they get distracted, and they produce really lame structures. And of course, there's teams that have a lot more ta-da structures. And among the best are recent graduates of kindergarten. And it's pretty amazing, as Peter tells us. Not only do they produce the tallest structures, but they're the most interesting structures of them all. So the question you want to ask is, how come? Why? What is it about them? And Peter likes to say that none of the kids spend any time trying to be CEO of Spaghetti Inc., right? They don't spend time jockeying for power. But there's another reason as well. And the reason is that business students are trained to find the single right plan. Right? And then they execute on it. And then what happens is when they put the marshmallow on top, they run out of time, and what happens? It's a crisis. Sound familiar? Right? Okay. What kindergartners do differently is that they start with the marshmallow and they build prototypes, successive prototypes, always keeping the marshmallow on top. So they have multiple times to fix and build prototypes along the way. So designers recognize this type of collaboration as the essence of the iterative process. And with each version, kids get instant feedback about what works and what doesn't work. So the capacity to play and prototype is really essential. But let's look at how different teams perform. So the average for most people is around 20 inches. Business school students, about half of that. Lawyers, a little better, but not much better than that. Kindergarten's better than most adults. Who does the very best? Architects and engineers, thankfully. And 39% 39 inches is the tallest structure I've seen. And why is it? Because they understand triangles and self-reinforcing geometrical patterns are the key to building self-reinforced stable structures. So CEOs, a little bit better than average, but here's where it gets interesting. If you put an executive admin on the team, they get significantly better. It's incredible. You know, you look around, you go, oh, that team's going to win. You can just tell beforehand. And why is that? Because they have special skills of facilitation. They manage the process. They understand the process. And any team who manages and pays a close attention to work will significantly improve the team's performance. Specialized skills and facilitation skills, the combination leads to strong success. If you have 10 teams that typically perform, you'll get maybe 6 or so that have standing structures. And I tried something interesting. I thought, let's up the ante once. So I offered a $10,000 prize of software to the winning team. So what do you think happened to these design students? What was the result? Here's what happened. Not one team had a standing structure. Not one had, if anyone had built, say, a 1-inch structure, they would have taken home the prize. So isn't it interesting that high stakes have a strong impact? We did the exercise again with the same students. What do you think happened then? So now they understand the value of prototyping. So the same team went from being the very worst to being among the very best. They produced the tallest structures in the least amount of time. So there's deep lessons for us about the nature of incentives and success. So you might ask, why would anyone actually spend time writing a marshmallow challenge? And the reason is I help create digital tools and processes to help teams build cars and video games and visual effects. And what the Marshmallow Challenge does is it helps them identify the hidden assumptions. Because frankly, every project has its own marshmallow, doesn't it? The challenge provides a shared experience, a common language, a common stance to build the right prototype. And so this is the value of the experience of this so simple exercise. And those of you who are interested may want to go to marshmallowchallenge.com. It's a blog that you can look at how to build the marshmallows, or step-by-step instructions on this. There are crazy examples from around the world of how people tweak and adjust the system. There's world records that are on this as well. And the fundamental lesson, I believe, is that design truly is a contact sport. It demands that we bring all of our senses to the task and that we apply the very best of our thinking, our feeling, and our doing to the challenge.
I think I hit that accidentally, but he was basically done. Sorry about that. I was rearranging my markers. That's what happened. But anyway, let's talk for a second about the concept of what he said there. Is failing fast is important to those that were successful at that. Now, how does that translate in your mind? What does that mean? What might we have done differently at the Marshmallow Challenge?
We would have tried different things quicker.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If we were stuck on a box, we didn't even know if it was going to work.
Right.
And we're trying to get it built up before we even put the marshmallow on. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, you're out of time. Can I have 5 more minutes? And even that wasn't enough.
Wasn't enough still. Yeah, it wasn't enough. Now, as far as I know, Brennan is the only one in the room that's done this before. Has anybody else done that before? No. So he elected to not influence the group, because this idea of starting with the marshmallow and building under it, that kindergartners do, isn't that crazy? We talk about out of the box thinking, and sometimes we want everybody to think like we think. And sometimes the way we think produces failures, you know? And so allowing a kindergarten kid to come in here and say, hey, what if we just, they start, building it upside down, and you go, oh, well, wait a minute. And that's what Brennan was doing over there. And I do think that there's 2 things that fouled this from his previous experience. One, I do think that these are Kroger spaghetti. Don't buy Kroger spaghetti. I think that Barbelli or whatever those other, Barillo or whatever those, I think they're stiffer. I'm going to experiment with that at another time. I'm going to bring different kinds of spaghetti and see if there is a difference there. I did have what do they call those? The gluten-free ones at one point in time, and they were really bad. They snapped. And then these kind of bent. You bent yours. In fact, your finished product hanging down, but yet it won because nobody could hang higher. It was, it was the best it was like that. And also, these marshmallows are giant, right? And so a heavier marshmallow compounds the problem that we've got this flimsy little spaghetti, and structurally, you can spear an apple with one of these spaghetti things, and as flimsy as they are, if it's going fast enough, it'll spear an apple, right? You can spear an apple with a drinking straw. If you haven't done that, Google it. Your kids know how to do it. It's cool, and it's a physics thing, right? Which this class, it's not about that. But structurally, this is plenty strong enough in this direction, straight down. As soon as we get any side force on it, it's not okay, right? And our engineering design has to change, and we all knew that going in. But he talked about another thing that I thought was extremely profound. Remember what he said about the executives and what he called the administrative assistants? Do you remember what he said about that?
It's slightly better, yeah.
They got better results. And do you remember what he said why?
Because they had like good collaboration and good
Facilitation, project management.
Facilitation is the key. See, in facilitating, does anybody know what the word facilitate means in the dictionary?
Put in action. Putting a plan in action.
Along that line, facilitate,
Oh, to help.
it simply means to make easy. And that's like, I didn't know that until somebody told me that a long time ago, and I go, nah, it's not it. It's, we all have bigger explanations of what words mean. That one means to make it easy. So when you facilitate, you just make the process easy. Administrative assistants spend their life facilitating, making it easy for the idiots around them to get stuff done. And I don't mean everybody's around them is an idiot, but in some cases they are, and they're overpaid. And the facilitator in the group has to make it happen without being acknowledged and without having the authority. And so on a team like making marshmallows, the administrative assistants are automatically good at not bossing people around, but facilitating to make the process work and be easy. That's something we all need to learn. And in project management, that's a skill set that's emphasized of how to do it. We'll be talking about that in the project management module on this, and that's one of the things that you pick up. How do you get things done when you can't fire somebody? I mean, that's what happens a lot of times. You're not the boss. You're just trying to make things happen. And so in this case, that was interesting that he picked that up. I thought that was interesting. So this is just a fun little exercise. First of all, how do you do it? Probably some of you will go home and pull spaghetti out and build one and say, I can do this. I know I can do this. And we saw a few examples, and also the target's 39 inches that he had seen with a smaller marshmallow. So you can decide how small the small marshmallow needs to be, but and maybe go buy better spaghetti or something, I don't know, flame it or something so it has some rigidity to it. I'm not sure. The point of it wasn't really that part. The point of it was the dynamics of how we work together. I didn't see anybody in the room being completely left out. Sometimes in some groups they are. And if that happened, I'd be able to bring that out and say, hey, did you not have any thoughts or ideas? And many times we ignore somebody that does have contribution, or the ability to make contributions. And that would be in a different kind of thing. Here we're looking at talent development, trying to solve problems, get involved, so we get this result. So we get a good result. So I got one more thing on problem solving that I want us to do, and then we are going to go home. This is a little 10-question quiz on how sharp you are, and I want to get the lights on so we can do that. I'd like everybody to take one of these. As soon as you get one, you can start working on it. 10 questions. Pass that around, please. I got the guy's knife I borrowed, scissors. Where'd the scissors wind up at? Did I leave them up there somewhere, or where did I gotta get back.
Oh, they're right here.
Beautiful, thank you. I didn't want to lose a guy's pair of scissors. can't do that. Better lose his scissors than his knife, but blue pen,
Yeah, it's not long ago. Thank you.
probably got pizza sauce on it.
Probably.
We don't have to like tell our score out loud, right?
You don't have to what?
We don't have to turn this in for the score, right? I mean, it's late. I've been gone for a long time to think.
I will let you grade it yourself, how's
Okay,
that, okay?
yeah.
And we're gonna be done in just a couple minutes.
Okay.
And when you have finished this, please put your pen down so we know that you're done. people are in the last question or two, so we'll wrap up in a couple, we'll give you 1 minute. All right. You can pick your pen back up to grade your paper. I promised that you don't have to trade paper. And Jake, who do we always start reading? Right with you, right? Read the first one. You don't have to answer it. I'll throw answers out. And if you want to throw an answer out, you're welcome to do it. First question.
Being very tired, the child went to bed at 7 o'clock at night. The child had a morning piano lesson and then therefore wound and set the alarm clock to ring at 8:45. How many hours and minutes of sleep did the child get?
Correct answer is 1 hour and 45 minutes. For those of you that have never had a wind-up alarm clock,
Oh,
that's
And
it.
24 hours
That's it.
or 12 hours.
Yes, sir.
It doesn't specify that.
What's that?
It doesn't specify that.
Oh, it doesn't specify that, no.
So I
So
wrote-
you can
I
give
wrote
yourself
two answers.
effort for trying, or give yourself, it may have 2 answers. We'll leave that one with a little dot behind. If you get a perfect paper, then I'll give you credit for that one. The second question, Eric.
Some months, like October, have 31 days. Only February has precisely 28, except in a leap year. How many months have 30 days?
Everybody's saying the poem to themselves, but the answer is 11 months. All but February have 30 days. Some of them also have 31. So 11 months is the right answer for that one.
Got it.
Question 3.
A farmer had 18 pigs and all but 7 died. How many were left?
7 pigs lived, right? All but 7 died, so 7 were left. Question 4. Brennan.
Divide 50 by a third and add 7. What is the answer?
The answer is 157. Right, 157. Number 5. Up to you, Denver.
What is the minimum number of active baseball players on the playing field during any part of an inning maximum as well?
All right, so there's more than one answer on this one that I will allow, so maybe that opens the door for the clock one too. On this one, 10 if you got 9 fielders and 1 batter, 13 if you got 9, 1 batter, and 3 base runners, add 1 if you count the on deck. So if you got any of those answers, that's good. If you have 9, that's not an acceptable one. Number 6.
What 4 words appear on every denomination of U.S. currency?
In God we trust.
God we trust is 1. There's another answer on that one too. United States of America is another. Yep, okay. So far, we've got, we're gonna hold fast on that, I hope. Number 7.
If a physician gave you 5 pills and told you to take one every half hour, how long would your supply last?
Okay, it's gonna last 2 hours. You're gonna take one now, plus 4 half hours. The question 8.
that was a paper.
Number 8.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh. If you only had one match and entered a cold, dimly lit room where there was a kerosene lamp, an oil heater, and a wood-burning stove, which would you like first?
The match.
The answer is the match. Yeah, the answer is the match. Number 9. Eli.
2 women play checkers. They play 5 games without a draw game, and each woman wins the same number of games. How can this be? They're not playing against each other.
They're not playing against each other is the answer to number 9. And number 10.
What word is misspelled in this test?
The word is misspelled.
Misspelled.
Yeah. All right, so if we allow 2 answers on the very first alarm clock question, how many got them all right? I guess that's the point of problem solving. We all knew all those answers, didn't we? Every one of them. And we slipped up on something. We just didn't think. 30 days or the match or something got us. You know, the half hours or 24-hour clock, whatever. Something got us. And that's the case so often we've got very smart people in the room and we miss the options. And we gotta watch for that in ourselves. So problem solving, the purpose of that, we're kicking off the weekend with this one, so, you've got the marshmallow challenge to think about a little bit, and then we'll talk about some serious things about selecting people for problem solving. Enjoy, the weekend, be safe, and we will see you on Tuesday. Thank you, everybody. Yep. Just about done. We were working on it before class, and I've got, what we did is we erased it, and we started it over. The first I've got.
So we have to,
Lots of-
I don't know if you remember saying.
So I will.
Email it.
Got it.
Thanks.